Okay, you wanted to see this in action, didn't you? This formula. So what color do you want to use? Is blue? Good. Alright, so let's do this formula. Let's say we have the point. Here's what the problem's going to look like on a quiz, test, homework, whatever. They're going to give you 2 points. Alright, 3, 2, and -5, -1. Alright, we just made those points up. And they're going to say find the distance or find the length of that segment right there. You with me? They're going to say find the distance. So what do? You put distance equals big old square root, and I do it like this. I put the parentheses and the squared. I set it all up. Now all I got to do is plug everything in. Right? Plug and chug is what I'll say a lot. So you plug everything in. So what do you do first? You take the x's and you subtract them. Remember what we said at the beginning? Does it matter what order you subtract? Right? 30 minus 10, 10 minus 30. Did that make any difference? It doesn't. If you look in the book, I think in the book it might say x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1. And people say, Mr. Hamrick, you didn't write it the way the book does, but does it make any difference? No, because look what you're doing anyway. What are you doing to it? You're squaring it anyway, aren't you? All right, so squaring it's going to take that negative and make it a positive anyway. So it doesn't make a difference. I just take the x's and subtract them. So 3, it's not 3 minus 5. You got to be careful with that. What is it? It's 3 minus -5, isn't it? Which will be plus. Now do the y's. The y's are the 2 and the -1. So it's 2 what? Minus -1. So 3, that's plus 5, which is what? 8. 8 squared is? 64. Okay, and what's this? That's 3 squared is 9. That's under a square root, and what's the answer? What's that? 73 square root? And you can just leave it like that. And that would be your answer. If you want to throw it into a calculator, feel free to do that if you want to. You don't have to. You can just keep it just like that. I don't know what the book does. I think sometimes they'll keep it as a square root, and sometimes they'll throw it into a calculator, get a decimal. Doesn't matter to me on a quiz or a test, all right? Unless I say specifically, but I don't think I will. So that's how you would use the distance formula. So do you have to go through all this stuff and put the y1, x1 and plot it and all? No, you don't have to go through that. I did it one time just so that you could see where we got the distance formula from. You got it? Anybody ever show you how we got the distance formula? Usually in Algebra 1 they just say, here it is, this is how you use it. Is that how you learned it last year? Yeah, usually. But now we're growing up a little bit, aren't we? Okay, we're a year older, so now we can see how we got to that mess. All right, let's pause this. Now we're going to do midpoint. I got about 5. All right, here we go. This time we're going to do midpoint instead of distance. Let's go to this marker. So let's say you had a point right here. We'll make these really easy numbers. Okay, we're on the road again, right? Remember going to McDonald's? But let's say you're going to meet somebody. You ever do that with your family? You know, you say, hey, it's kind of far for me to go there, and it's kind of far for you to come here. So, hey, let's meet somewhere in between, do something, you know, meet at some park or whatever. Anybody ever do that? Yeah, so let's say you're over here. We'll go the 10 and the 30 again, all right? So let's go the 10 and the 30 and say, all right, we want to meet in between, okay? So we don't both have to drive so far. So we'll meet somewhere else. And that's how we're going to do that. So what would the halfway place be between here and here?
20.
Yeah, it'd be 20, wouldn't it? Now, how in the world did you get that?
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, you can just look at it and say, okay, it's 20, because it's 10 from here and it's 10 from here. Would you agree? But what's another way to do that? You could have gone 30 minus 10, right? And then that's what?
20.
But is it always going to be the first one minus the last one? No, it's not always going to be that. I probably should have picked different numbers because that actually came out like that. But then what do you do? So 30 minus 10 is 20. That's the distance, right? We're going halfway. So what's half of 20? 10, right? So you went 10 this way and you went 10 this way, correct? What's another way to do this? Check this out. I could do this. I could go 30 plus 10. And you're like, plus? Where are you going to say that? You could go 30 plus 10, but then do what to it? Divided by 2. All right, so that's 40 divided by 2, which is 20. I should have used different numbers here, but that's okay. So that's how you find the midpoint. So what do? You add the two endpoints together and then divide by 2. Does that make sense? So let's do another one that may not be so easy to see. That one was kind of easy to see. Let's do this. Let's make this point like -7 and make this point let's make it like 12, okay? What about that? That's not quite as easy just to look at and see where the middle of this is. But what could we do? We could do what to it? What did I say right here? Follow this pattern right here. Add them together, so negative 7 plus 12, and then do what to it? Divided by 2. What's negative 7 plus 12? It's 5 over 2. What's 5 over 2? It's 2.5, or 2.5. So where is the middle? Where's the midpoint? It's at 2.5. Were you able just to look at that second one and just say, oh yeah, it's 2.5 is the middle? No. Okay. Yeah, you might have guessed 3, but 2.5 is exactly where it is. All right. You can understand when it's easy numbers like this, it's not that big of a deal. But when it's a little bit harder numbers, add them up, divide by 2. Everybody got that? Okay. Let's get rid of this, and let's put an x and y axis here. And now it's easy when it's just straight across or straight up and down. But what if it's a slanted? And let's go red on this. What if it's slanted like we did before? I tell you what, let's slant it the other way. Just make it a little bit different. Is that all right? What if we had this point right here and this point right here? What are we going to call this? Well, what did we call this point before we actually knew what the numbers were? X1 and Y1. Okay, and this point right here, we'll call this X2 and Y2. It doesn't matter which one you make, X1, Y1, or X2, Y2. But how do we find the midpoint? We're running out of time, so I'm going to have to go through a little faster. So it's going to be around in here somewhere, isn't it? But look, there's your X1, there's your X2. How do you find the middle of this? You add them up and you divide by 2. So watch. It's going to be X1 plus X2, and you divide it by 2. How do you find the middle of the Y? Here's the top of the Y, here's the bottom of the Y. How do you find the midpoint there? That's right. It's Y1 plus Y2 over 2, and that right there is the midpoint formula. I'll just shorten it. Midpoint formula. Okay? That's it. That's all you have to do. This time you're adding, aren't you? To find the midpoint, you add the endpoints and you divide by 2. And that's how you do it if it's along a diagonal like this. All right? Does that make any sense? There's probably an example in the book. We're running out of time right here, so I got to give you your and I think that should be good enough to do everything you have to do. All right, here's your assignments. Let me get the right honors distance midpoint. Okay, here we go. It's pages 31. You guys watching? You writing this down? Shouldn't be turned around. And it's 13 to 32. All right. So, and it's section 1-3. Do we have homework? What kind of question is that?
I know, right?
What did I tell you the first day? Almost every day you're going to have homework. Shouldn't be a surprise to you. All right. You should just expect it. That's why I tried to warn you. All right. There you go. Section 1-3, 13 to 32. You're doing them all. Everybody good? All right. Everybody say bye to YouTube.
Bye.